Are we the baddies?
I drink your milkshake.
Hey, this is Box Office Baddies coming to you from a balcony in beautiful Koreatown, Los Angeles. My name is Sean.
My name's Nick, and welcome to another episode. We are just hanging out here. It's starting to get cold in LA.
Yeah, how's your week been, Nick?
It's been good. I was at home for Thanksgiving and had to deal with all the, shit talking from, let's just say, some members who may or may not be watching from my family at the Thanksgiving table about the podcast. But other than getting some nice constructive criticism,
That's one way to put it, right?
yeah, I had a good time hanging out with the family. How about you?
Yeah, it was good. I unfortunately got scheduled to work on Thanksgiving, but I work remote, and it wasn't too bad. I actually got to kind of head out and go to my grandparents in the middle of my shift and then come back, and yeah, man, everything was pretty fun.
Nice. That's
Not too
good.
bad.
Well, why don't you tell us what movie we did this week?
All right, today we are going to talk about the movie Buffalo 66. Buffalo 66 is a movie that is written and directed and is starred in by Vincent Gallo. And we looked into Vincent Gallo a little bit. He's a very interesting character, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's got a really weird backstory in Hollywood. I think he, in the late 90s was really big and really was about to be, one of the next big guys, but had some fallout that I heard from someone, it was some, sex scene in a movie that I guess went too far and got this kind of bad reputation around town, and he kind of disappeared. And yeah, I think he's just one of those people that kind of imploded when he was at the top, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I can kind of touch in on what happened to him. So Buffalo 66, which we'll get into, I think great movie, a great definition of how an indie movie can be and should be with a very small budget. But after he made this movie Buffalo 66, he had a movie afterwards which he kind of tried to achieve that same level of indie movie guy, he's the new guy in town trying to make a name for himself, and he made this movie called The Brown Bunny, and this stars Chloe Sevigny, if you've heard of her before.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hip actress for sure. But anyways, he made himself this very pretentious character, and it's just about him getting laid and just being on the road, and it's so self-indulgent. And there's this scene in particular where Chloe Sevigny actually blows fellatio Vincent Gallo. And what's crazy is they actually did the sex act in the movie. It actually went down. And yeah, I think for some people they thought this might go a little bit past the bounds of art, is this a soft porn? What are we talking about here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's disgusting. That's crazy that he was directing the movie and acting in it. And I guess
he'd be so canceled today.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think he was back then even. That's
true,
kind of why
yeah.
he disappeared. He was maybe the first person that was ever canceled.
Here's the thing, though, is if the movie is fantastic, if we're talking 98 Rotten Tomatoes, if it's that good,
It's 65. I looked it up, but keep going.
I think it might be a little lower, but doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you're going almost 100% Rotten Tomatoes, I think you might be able to slide in a quick fellation. You know what I'm saying? It might be able to work.
Yeah, but when it's real, that's like a porno.
And all I'm saying is if you're gonna do that, at least have the movie be good.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of this beast, as they say. I've already had a beer, so I'm ready for some nuts and bolts.
Already.
What was why'd you choose the film? Let's just start there.
Okay, so I would say this is a movie that isn't particularly my favorite movie overall. I wouldn't even say it's a top 10 of mine, maybe just in general as a film, but I would say it's one of my favorite filmed movies. I absolutely love the cinematography. It's probably going to be most of what I talk about today is including the cinematography.
Sorry.
Fuck off, dude. Anyways, this was shot on a 35 millimeter camera, and it's just got this like really cool look. I believe they use like this kind of like rare, expensive like film stock called I think it's reversal film stock, and it just really achieves like this nice sort of like glossy look with like almost like silvery blue whites, you know, which maybe they added a little bit in post, but I just think it's like absolutely gorgeous. And I think any movie that can pull off such like a textured, nice, cool feel, and the movie is only $1.5 million total, I think it's a real achievement. And what did you think about the cinematography overall?
I thought it was cool. I liked in the intro, you know, and throughout the movie where they have the different shapes, kind of 60s, 50s style, kind of shooting through the frame and like growing.
You're talking about almost like the collage.
Yeah, like the video collage stuff and the color in the intro I really liked.
Yeah.
But I think that it was good. It actually kind of reminded me of the Lighthouse in a weird way.
Interesting.
Because like it's a like indie film with maybe 3 or 4 people, you know, and it's about like this. It's kind of centers 80-90% of the scenes are just 2 people, and it's just about like their relationship starting from nothing and then growing like into something by the end. Like they both didn't know, like both sets of characters didn't know each other in the beginning, and they're isolated together kind of because of circumstances, and they have to get to know each other, you know.
Well, yeah, not only did it start from nothing, but it started out from an actual kidnapping. So essentially,
that was crazy.
You have a main character named Billy, who's played by Vincent Gallo.
Billy Brown, I think, right?
Something like that, yeah. But he's like a very insecure person. He loves to flex like he's got it all together, but he's really just a super troubled guy, not doing well in life. He just got out of prison after being there for a couple years for, I think it was betting on a football game, right? And not being able to like pay it or something.
Well, I think he like somehow was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or with money or a bet, and he basically had to take the fall or else from some vig or mob guy, and he came out from his sentence, you know, that he had no choice but to serve. You know, I think that was kind of the reason.
Yeah, something like that. So he essentially gets out of jail, and you kind of hear throughout it, he's like talking to his parents, like, yes, Mom, like I'll be there. I'm going to be at dinner. And you could tell that he just like both wants to impress his parents, but is also very like hateful about them, you know, like he definitely has like a past with them that is not good, that you could tell right off the bat. And you can also really tell from the beginning that his insecurity seems to really stem off them as well. Anyways.
Yeah, I hated his character off the bat.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Like I liked it. It caught you off guard, like when he just grabbed the girl like in that hallway from the payphone initially. It was like shocking because the pace of it had been pretty low key to that point. But yeah, there was just nothing likable about him.
Well, yeah, so let's continue with the plot basically. So he stumbles across this girl who is like near this payphone. She's like, I think doing like a dance class or something like that.
She's going to the bathroom.
Yeah, and it's right near this dance class, and she ends up like getting taken hostage from Billy, and he like puts her in her car and has her drive him to his parents' house. And once he gets there, he essentially like describes to her like, all right, you're gonna come in, like you're gonna be my girlfriend, like my fiance, you're gonna act a certain way, you're not gonna touch me, like just all these like confined sort of weird things, and she's just kind of going along with it in, I don't know, like way more of a way than you'd think she would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot in the beginning of the movie, it like felt like it was shot like in real life, like it wasn't on a movie set, you know what I mean? Like it felt like they just went out and put them on a street corner, like walking down that, like, well, I don't know if they did that or not, but it kind of had that feel. I like when people shoot in films, like in real life, you know, like even from something like really indie like that, even like you know, like a lot of the movies in New York City of people like walking down the street, those are all just like, I don't know how that's legal.
Yeah,
if you just end up in that, you're in like a huge, you know, scene. But
well, I think you can basically get like sort of a permit like for those areas, but you're also like, you can't like block the flow of people in that area. So you'll have like some like really like shitty PAs just like on set, just be like, please, like, don't get in the shot. And then like people just walking, like normal civilians, can be like, screw you. So it's just, it's kind of a mixture of getting like a permit and like just getting your shot when you can with like the business of a city. But yeah, so I think this sort of overlaying of images really comes to fruition to play kind of, it kind of plays like a verbal scrapbook when they're sitting at the dinner table and he's starting to get reminded of like very sort of like shitty memories from his past, and they'll kind of like fly in, like him getting allergic reaction. And I think it really serves as like another way to like layer narrative on top of each other, but also it's like a great way to kind of like see the inner stream of consciousness of Billy and how he's feeling all at once. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard to know like who to believe in that, you know, because it's strange in the meaning, because you see these flashbacks that are assumed to be real because they're inside of Billy's head, but then his mom just kind of says the opposite of that on everything, and he's kind of been crazy and in jail, so it's like, which one do you believe? You know, I think it's assumed that it's, you know, a flashback though.
For sure. Yeah, but I think it's just weird. I think with a mixture of like sort of that visual collage, like the way it looks, the sort of like bluish, like silvery blue sort of like background color with also like browns mixed together. I noticed a lot of like browns and blues were in the shots. And to me it looked almost like if Grease or Hairspray made a movie where the American dream was gone and like was slightly doled out. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they have like the classic bowling scene in this movie with almost like a little like 50s dance she's doing like with her dress. Bowling's very like kind of 50s like time period, maybe a little after that or something.
Yeah,
Just
the
the way
scenes were great.
The way that like he dresses, he's wearing sort of like the leather jacket and just the get up, like he just looks like a greaser from Grease who got addicted to heroin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fine. One thing I did like about the movie was I always kind of struggle with dense dialogue and different plot points changing, and it's really clear the whole movie, like what's going on. It's very obvious. You know, it's like, okay, this guy's kidnapped this girl. They don't know each other, and then it's like, okay, they're going to his parents' house. You know, and that's kind of the next 15, 20 minutes. But I enjoyed how simple it was to understand what was going on, and then so you could just focus on, you know, like the characters themselves.
All right, getting sort of into your expertise about the movie, or something that you could give an angle on. How did you feel about like the score or the lack thereof of a score for the most part?
I mean, there's not much to talk about because there wasn't much music, but I thought it was cool because it built a lot of tension in a different way rather than music, like having it kind of silent, because I think it felt more real.
Yeah.
Like, you know, rather than having like the swell of the strings and the horns, like the Hitchcockian stuff when he's grabbing her and kidnapping her.
The Johnny Greenwood sort of falling into a well.
Yeah.
Sort of swell of strings. Rather
than that, when he's like kidnapping her, it's like you're just literally kind of huddled in the corner watching it for real. So yeah. I think it kind of, the intensity is kind of escalated in that way. But I'm trying to remember what parts they brought in kind of that jazzy soundtrack. I think it was whenever Billy was like enjoying himself or something to some degree. Right?
Yeah, I think the lack thereof of a score really kind of lent itself to when scenes got crazy, there would be like some sort of music that would come in, you know, like her dance at the bowling alley, like
the karaoke scenes were crazy. Yeah,
like her attempt in the bowling alley to try to like have fun with Billy, and Billy's like not having it, but it kind of suddenly there's like this song that comes in with like the percussion of her feet clicking on the ground, and that mixed with the percussion of the actual song, and it's sort of just, I don't know, it just really like puts emphasis on each like individual character, and it kind of like it's like a window into like who they are more. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a very similar thing with the scene where you hated the dubbing of the dad.
Yeah.
And it's like when he starts like singing the track, which she like really wants to hear, meaning like Billy's girlfriend. He's just sitting there. He puts on the tape and he starts almost like miming the lyrics to his own track. And then all the lights go down, and there's almost like this stage light that's on him where he's like Frank Sinatra or something. And it's weird. It's kind of like just like this like vignette into like this past character's life or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of moments where it kind of stepped outside of the style that it was filmed in. You know, like just to almost in like to like slow down the pace or something. You know, like in the like that karaoke scene, like I was talking about. There's kind of two music montages throughout it, and they just felt a little off to me. Like I like the way that they were shot, but as far as the sound, it felt like they were kind of like miming to a tape rather than. It would be easy for sound designers to put different effects on that like vocal rather than the backing thing to make it sound like it's more in the room, and she's like singing in the room to something that's backing her up.
Sure.
But I was just wondering the whole time if that was a choice. Maybe it most likely was to do it that way, because maybe it makes it like more heady and more you know, like
more hip.
It's like more subversive and and like outside of reality. I feel like a lot of hit filmmakers like to have a lot of intensity, and they just take you out of reality for like 5 minutes, and they bring you back, and they're like, you know what I mean? It's kind of
For
like
sure.
Against your own will, like just getting dominatrix by like like all these indie filmmakers, you know?
Totally. But yeah, I think there's like really parts of this movie that I don't love, but I kind of forget about just because of how much I love the aesthetic of the actual movie. If I'm thinking about it now, one of the things that I really can't vibe with is, I think, for instance, how we were talking about the Brown Bunny, his next film, how that one like didn't work at all. I think that film and this film, someone dropped a pan in our alley. It's the perks of doing this on a balcony. So
K-Town, baby.
anyways, like, I think the Brown Bunny is very similar to this film, because I think that they're both written very like self-indulgent. Like I feel like he's always like putting his like heart on his sleeve, and he's really like being emotional, and you could tell like his neuroses and the way he feels are really like coming to fruition during these actual scenes. But I think like maybe just because like this was a more expertly crafted movie, people could kind of get past that, versus in Brown Bunny, them just being like, okay, this is like a little bit shitty, like I'm not going to be able to get past like some of the weird choices he made. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's like they gave him the benefit of the doubt on
yeah
Buffalo 66, but he kind of pushed his luck on
you
know, on what Brown Bunny.
Brown Bunny, yeah.
Which is a really dirty name for a film, by the way. But,
some innuendo or what?
well, I mean, considering there's a, you know, pornographic scene in a dramatic film, like it's kind of goes hand in hand. But
for sure. But yeah, I think that this one was just crafted in certain ways that I think people in like the indie scene within film, like at the time, I imagine they must have been very impressed with like the $1.5 million budget and like the creativity to sort of propel the scripts into the level that it became, you know? Like, I think this is definitely like a classic. I've seen it on some lists being like one of the best like indie films like made in the past like 20 years or so.
yeah, it's definitely an incel opus, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
That's another thing though, right?
it's like a best case scenario for an incel.
That's the other thing, right? So it's like quick synopsis again. He takes her hostage, takes her to his parents' house to meet them.
Commits a crime
after the fact. He's being a dick to her the whole time. He's just like, don't touch me. And she's actually like displaying some sort of affection towards him, because I think she might be also sort of like deeply insecure, but in a different way. And it's hilarious that he becomes like the winner in this film. It's like, I understand like she might be able to see like through his facade, like, oh, he's like really just like a teddy bear. He's nice. But I didn't really see many moments in this film where she could even see that, you know? Like, she only knew him for a day, and then she's just like I feel like I see into his soul. Like, he's a good guy. And it's like, no, he's not, dude.
Dude.
He bought you a heart-shaped cookie and a fucking hot chocolate at the end. I don't think he's a great guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had this kind of dazed look in her eye the whole time. You know what I mean? That like you don't quite know if she's like on something. Is she just kind of got something loose upstairs? But I mean, I liked the relationship between them though, and like
It was playful for sure.
yeah, by the end, like I liked that it like not to skip to the end, but I liked that at the end we had they were setting you up for that typical hipster like no compromises, no resolution
It's
ending.
a dark ending where they don't get what they want.
Yeah, exactly. That's like what every like film that loves. They're like they don't want any happy endings. They want to just like feel like shit when they leave the theater.
Yep.
But that happens. But then they kind of keep it going, and then by the end, it actually ends up resolving in this kind of harmonious way, romantic way. But it's not quite the full because they came from that hipster ending. It was creative, and I liked it in terms of like a hipster ending. It was like a hipster ending within a hipster ending, if that makes any sense.
It's like Inception of hip.
Yeah, it was Inception of hipster independent foreign filmmaking.
Nice. Yeah, but I think just kind of to like lastly touch on like how I feel about him. It's kind of like, look how like neurotic I am. Like, look how much I can insert like my neuroses into this film, and like I'll still get the love that I like feel like I deserve at the end. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It feels very self-indulgent. I'm not saying nothing like this can't happen in actual life, but I need to read you something, Nick, about Vincent Gallo on his website, just to
Okay.
give you a little bit more of a background of his personal life in reflection to the film.
Okay, while you pull that up, I'm going to set the scene. So, it's the late 90s. Vincent Gallo is one of the brightest young stars in Hollywood. Creed is ruling the radio, but butt rock is at a peak. It's
Woo!
he's at medieval times eating a turkey leg with Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell. And
You best believe they had some crazy nights in medieval times, huh?
but you know this guy just was roaming around LA feeling like the shit, and it all ended up kind of going to his head, and it kind of all culminates in this website that he has.
Okay. So he has things kind of like the About Vincent Gallo page, like the contact me, like the sort of like store you can buy like merch from me. It's like pictures of my face, because like why wouldn't you want a picture of my face on Vincent Gallo? But there happens to be this part of the site where it's actually under, I think it's personal services is what it's called. So it's like he has, not only will you want to buy his merch, but he has something that he knows that you need. And he's like, I'm going to give it to you. Like because he's very much like a humanitarian, you know?
Is it like dirty socks? Like, what is it?
Oh, okay, you'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and read this for you, okay?
Send it.
I, Vincent Gallo, star of such classics as Buffalo 66 and The Brown Bunny, have decided to make myself available to all women.
Oh, wow.
All women who can afford me, that is. For the modest fee of $50,000 plus expenses, I can fulfill the wish, dream, or fantasy of any naturally born female. The fee covers
my
one
God.
evening with
This guy's
Vincent
an
Gallo.
animal.
For those who wish to accompany me for the weekend, the fee is increased to a mere $100,000. Heavyset, older, redheads, and even black chicks can have me if they can pay the bill.
Whoa.
No real female will be refused. However, I highly frown upon any male having even the slightest momentary thought or wish that they could ever become my client. No way, Jose. However, female couples of the lesbian persuasion can enjoy a Vincent Gallo evening together for a mere $100,000. $200,000 buys the lesbos a weekend that will have them second guessing. And
Wow.
I don't want you guys to have to hear much more of this, but he goes on to talk about how he sells his sperm for $1 million. Price includes all costs related to one attempt at an in vitro fertilization.
Oh, my God.
Super crazy. But,
So he's an animal.
well, ladies, I think one thing I'll say to the ladies is to the ladies is to really consider this. You know, I mean, the guy's got great sperm. He's a hell of a talent. Let me tell you that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think if you could harness the talent of his sperm in the right way, you could end up with a real nice little nugget of a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
The kid doesn't even, and here's the thing, is the kid doesn't even have to know the dad, you know? He's saying, like, you bought the sperm, it's your property, you know what I'm saying? But I think he just likes the idea that, like, there's a bunch of little, like, Vincent Gallos, like, galloping around the world, you know what I'm saying? Like,
this guy's ego is just, like, comically huge. Like, it's just, like, it's beyond, like, Hollywood prototype. Like, it's crazy.
Here's the thing is, like, whenever I see stuff like this, I know that there's always sort of a, like, maybe this person loves controversy. Maybe it's sort of like a Kanye sort of Morrissey kind of vibe where they just love to say things to get the attention. But I feel like even with those people, after a while, you kind of just start to realize, like, maybe this person is, like, deeply troubled and actually believes this, you know? And it's like...
yeah, or maybe this person has a mental illness, you know? Like, that, dude, like, is, I think, a real possibility with Vincent Gallo.
And Vincent Gallo actually ended up writing, like, this manifesto, like...
Hey, there we go.
A couple years ago. And
bingo.
It talks about, like, the things he loves, like, his sort of maybe, like, exit from Hollywood or something like that, and just, like, just the way he feels about, like, politics. I think he's very adamant about Donald Trump.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a huge surprise. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, no, here's the thing though, is me and Nick were actually talking about this. There's like so many of these, like, ultra, like, hip people. Well, I wouldn't say so many of them, but there's been at least 4 or 5 that I've seen that we can name that seem like they would be, like, the most, like, liberal people ever. Like, they're vegan. They, I don't know. They, like, love poetry. They love, like, writing songs or whatever the fuck. Like,
okay, what's the point?
All I'm getting at is that I think that it's just surprising that there's actually a bunch of, like, these, like, hidden Republicans, or not even hidden. They're, like, coming right to the surface and saying, like, yeah, like, I'm straight Republican. Like, what's going on? Like, who cares? And it's, you know,
you think James Caan's a Democrat?
Who?
James Caan.
Who's that?
Dude, freaking Sonny Corleone, dude. Freaking Buddy's dad in Elf. James Caan. But, like, that, he's a famous, like, conservative Hollywood. But they're few and far between. But the ones that are in Hollywood, they are loud as hell. You know what I mean? Like, what's the?
Well, I think you kind of have to, though, right? It's like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
if you're closeted, people are like, hey, like, are you blah blah blah? Like, and he's just like, you know what? Like, I am. Like, here's a whole manifesto, and here's some sperm if you wanna.
Yeah. Also, if you ever have manifesto attached to your name, that's a problem. That is just should be a goal of everyone to avoid having that word attached to, like, your what's it called? Your obit, you know?
Yeah. Do you know who else has a fucking manifesto? Remember Chris Dorner?
Oh God.
The cop killing cop, dude. He had one.
That's a real freaking Inception one. Chris Dorner, just the cop within the system of the system.
Crazy.
Well, we're really covering, you know, all bases here on this episode.
We got deep,
you know?
Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our voices got louder.
Okay, so let's just give a final take here. What do you think about the movie? Let's rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 for the cinematography, and let's rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 for your gut feeling
about the whole film.
Yeah, just overall.
I think, honestly, cinematography, because it's the main reason I picked it, I would give it like a 9 to a 10. And I'm rating that within sort of like the indie lens of cinematography.
Yep.
Because I've never really seen much better
Yep.
of an indie film, or as creative with, like, as little as they had to work with. So I would say probably a 9 or a 10 for that. And I think overall as a film, honestly, I'd probably go as low as, like, maybe like a 7 to 7.5. I don't love everything about it, but I think that the parts that I do like about it really redeem it for me. I think it's like a fun watch. And
Yeah, it's slow. But if it wasn't slow, it wouldn't be good. So like it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of have to, one comes with the other.
Yeah.
But I think for me, on the cinematography, I'd rate it high as well, probably like an 8. You know, there was, I think you enjoy a little bit more of the kind of older style of slower pace, a little bit more than me. You have a little more patience for it. So I think that's why you like that side of it a bit more than I do. But I think the overall gut feeling, you know, like would I put this on just, you know, after I made dinner just to chill out, I'd say it's probably a 5 or a 6. But I think it's still a good movie. And at the end of the day, when I finished it, you know, yesterday when we watched it, I felt good about watching it. But I think there's just moments for me where, you know, it just feels a little drawn out and slow. But I think I feel that way about almost every movie. So, like, I think that's just a common complaint that I have.
Okay. Well, Nick, I kind of want you to lead us out.
Okay.
And I want you to go ahead and look right in the camera. And I want you to give us your best sort of Vincent Gallo advice to the audience.
Best Vincent Gallo advice.
To the audience, yeah. Just look right there in the camera, dead in the eye.
All right. My advice would be to study the career of Vincent Gallo and do the opposite.
Oh, wow. So this is like a reform Vincent.
Yeah, I think he went wrong, and everyone needs to go right. And if you don't, that's okay too.
You heard it here. See you guys.